What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Second Passport. Today, I got pretty good news. Recently, a week or two ago, I finally got paid, right, from an apartment or condo I sold in Guayaquil, right? Now I have two total, and now I had two, now I just have one, in the same building, right across from the the Mall del Sol near the airport. What I do with both of them was, and what I still do is rent to short-term renters, kind of on Airbnb. Here's the actual listing right here, and a few photos of one of the units that I just sold. They both look pretty similar in a tower with a nice building and 24-hour reception and everything. The timeline for me just now. The guy I sold to used a loan from Banco Pichincha, the largest privately held bank in Ecuador. April 1st of this year, 2021, we signed the promesa, and he paid $10,000 initial deposit towards the deal. And then it was almost exactly 3 months later where we signed the final deed and escrituras. And I literally signed the property over to this guy 100%, which is what I had to do supposedly in order for the bank to disperse payment. Now, it's the first time I had sold to someone who got a loan, so obviously I was a little iffy about the whole thing and didn't really like it. Felt quite uncomfortable, actually. But I did it anyway, and I signed, and it took a little over a month later, right at the end of July, I finally got paid by bank deposit for the remaining part of the amount that was due, right? So it took almost 4 months, just about 4 months exactly, for the whole sale to happen, right? And that's kind of what you can expect if you sell to someone on loan. Now, why did I really sell? Well, I've always liked this area of Guayaquil, and I bought this particular unit right at the beginning of 2018, 2017, 2018 for 76,000, and I just sold here in 2021 for 82,000. So as you can see, compared to the markets I follow and own property in the U.S., which is Bozeman, Big Sky, Montana, and Cleveland, Ohio. Even compared to Ohio, where property is still very cheap, the appreciation over these last couple years has been incredible, especially out west in Montana. It's just been ridiculous. And I wish, I would have put this money to work there instead of here in Guayaquil. So one of the reasons I sold was obviously lack of appreciation. And I'm kind of expecting that trend to continue in both markets by me selling and maybe reallocating this money. And secondly, and probably more importantly, I bought this as a short-term rental option, and it stays pretty full, but the rents I've been able to command are much lower and lower and lower, especially since after COVID, but really even before COVID, rents were lowering and lowering and lowering. And like anything in Ecuador, when people see a good thing, they just swarm on top of it, kind of like crabs in a barrel, and they just pull everyone down, and they just keep lowering the prices, as you may have found if you do business here in Ecuador. And that's kind of what's happened to the Airbnb business, at least in the big cities of Ecuador, over the last few years. When I first started in 2018, 17, I could get $1,200, $1,500 a month. And I actually rented other units in the building where I bought in and subleased them with the owner's permission. And at the most, I had 4 or 5 working for me in 2017, 18. And now I couldn't do that. It wouldn't be profitable, because just there's been so many people that have put their properties on Airbnb now, and prices have just dropped and dropped and dropped, and to the point where before 3-4 years ago I was doing $1,500 from each unit per month, and now I'm down to around $500 after you pay the utilities and the $100 a month condo association fees, which are obviously pretty reasonable compared to a place like the U.S. So even with that low condo fee and the utilities come to about $100 a month total, electric, water, and internet, Uh, I'm still only doing about 500 a month right now uh, from the one unit I have left. So that's another big reason why I decided to sell. So, there are three basic ways to value a business or a property, right? And this is kind of how I view it, or even just a stock, right? It's there's the asset approach. When it comes to a property, it basically means how much you got in it, which is how a lot of Ecuadorians price what they sell because they have no freaking idea how much anything's worth because there's no standardized MLS system, right? How much do you got in it, right? How much have you paid and how much do you have you put in it in improvements? And that's the price they put on it. When it comes to like a stock, take a Walmart stock or something, obviously the asset approach would be the price. How much would you pay for the business in order to liquidate all the hard assets of the business, right? And that can kind of roughly be reflected in like the price to book value or the book value of the stock. But that's a pretty bad way to value a stock in particular because obviously you probably don't buy the business or the piece of the business, aka stock, in order to just liquidate the business and close it up, right? Also, I mean, the number two approach is comparables. This is pretty easy. Comparables approach or competition, you know, when it comes to a property, what are other properties going for compared to mine? Where it comes to like a stock or a business, obviously you can compare that based on the direct competition of the business. What's the PE ratio or the price to earnings ratio of of that stock, of that business, of those comparing business directly competing businesses, right? For instance, a quick search online, I found a property right in the same buildings. It's like a Twin Towers thing where I own, asking right now 97.5 with a parking place, right? And I know from personal firsthand experience that parking places in these buildings go for about 20,000. So me selling for 82, this is actually up here probably a better deal than the one I just sold, right? So as you can see, there hasn't really been much appreciation at all in the last 3 or 4 years since I bought in here, which is why I'm deciding to sell and move that money and put it in something else that I think maybe can generate more cash flow, which is the third way to value a business is, and I borrowed this method directly from Warren Buffett. As you can imagine, I'm not quite smart enough to figure this out on my own. It's the cash flow, all the cash flows you plan on getting for that business, discounted back to the present to give you a present value for the business, which makes sense because if someone's going to pay you a value 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now, it's obviously less. That amount is less valuable to you right now than if you were paid right now. So it does make sense. Here in Ecuador, the starting point, you can take money and put it in a bank account here, in a CD or in a cooperative like JEP, and you can generate an easy 9 to 9.5% annual return on your money without doing anything, right? So that's kind of the point of where I start at when I have money here in Ecuador to invest. It better make significantly more than that to be worth my time. So in my case, 15% or more is what annually is what I would possibly consider to be a better investment than just putting your money in a CD here in Ecuador, right? So I'm discounting back at 15% a year in order to reflect that. And the cash flows that I plan on getting from this property, right? I'm assuming, like I do with a lot of stocks I buy, it better have at least a 10% annualized growth rate year on year, cash on cash. So right now at the $500 a month income earnings after expenses I'm making from this property, it's generating about $6,000 a year. Now, that also is after insurance, which is very cheap in Ecuador for a property of this size, just a one bedroom, one bath suite in a tower. right? And this, so it's what I'm generating in a year is about $6,000 from the one unit, right? And each successive year, I'm assuming I can find a way to generate 10% more in earnings growth based on the previous year, right? For 10 years. And then at the end of the 10 years, I'm going to assume I sell the property for 10 times the 2031 cash flow amount. Which, yeah, maybe in 10 years from now, the property might actually be worth around $141,000. It's possible, right? Depending on how much money gets printed and everything like that, right? So that value discounted back at the 15% all 10 years from now is just really $35,000. So when you add up all these amounts together, all this cash discounted back to the present, what I assume from this model is my property is really worth, based on this cash flow discounted back model, $78,000, right? $78,000. So if I could sell the unit for anything more than that, which I just did, 82,000, but I had to pay a 3% realtor fee, right? So of that. So anything that I would get above that amount, I would say take it, get out of it, relocate the money, right? And there's kind of a fourth way I could also judge a business in Ecuador like this, and that is, based on the 9%, rule. I can put money in a bank right now in Ecuador and generate an easy, quick 9% annually. And if I took that money, right, from the sale and put it in the bank at the 9%, I would make around 7,500 a year without having to do anything or worry about any maintenance costs or anything like that. So I would still beat the 6,000 I'm currently making after expenses in the condo itself. So that's another fourth reason why I decided to sell and relocate the money, at least here in banks here in Ecuador, but maybe in a different property or a different business. I'm still looking right now, and that's kind of what this channel's about. Is my search in order to be able to stay. That's my ultimate goal. Stay living abroad in Ecuador. So if you'd like to follow me, make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified of more videos just like this as soon as they become available.